Welcome to Ascending with Venus Castleberg, a space where we explore the journey of spiritual awakening, expanding your consciousness and raising your frequency to create a whole new world. We'll dive into the possibilities that open up when you choose to follow the whispers and trust your inner knowing. Each episode is designed to guide you in expanding your awareness, tuning into your intuition, and discovering the magic of your life every day. We'll talk about living aligned with your soul's purpose, going beyond limitations, and creating a life and a world worth celebrating. You are here to embrace who you truly are and step into the infinite potential that's waiting for you. Let's ascend together. And now, here is your host, Venus Castleberg.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. If you are joining us live, please leave a comment. I love seeing that there's actually people out there. I have a very special guest today, Mellissa Seaman. Interestingly enough, used to be a lawyer and is now a channel and inspires businesses and helps people find their purpose. Like, she's really a visionary. She's turned, I would say that's probably more like a 360 than a 180, but from lawyer to this. But anyway, I'm really happy to have you here, Mellissa. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Venus.
Yeah. So I don't actually want to dive too much into your story today, because for those of you who don't know, you should have seen it already. We have a summit coming up on this Friday and Saturday, and Mellissa is one of our featured guests. And I'm going to dive into a lot of her personal story and kind of how that happened. This is Treasure. She had to say hi. So we're going to do that this weekend. So we'll post the link for you to join the summit, because I'd love for you to come to the How Do You Know You're Not Crazy Summit. But today I thought, well, let's talk about channeling, because I know a lot of people have questions about channeling. They're like, what is it? How does it work? How does it work for you? So I would love, if you're open to it, Mellissa, for you to share, first of all, like, when did you first become aware that you were channeling?
Well, it does go into a little bit the personal story.
That's okay. That's fine. Yeah,
the short
totally
story
fine.
being that I was Catholic and a lawyer, business lawyer, litigation preparation specialist lawyer, and accidentally got psychic with the birth of my daughter back in the year 2000. And yes, we will go deeper into that story. It's a pretty fun one when we talk on this summit this weekend. But I realized that I could channel when I started teaching other people, when other people would ask questions, and I would think, well, I don't really know the answer to that personally. Let me tune in. And at that point, there would be this opportunity to allow through me wisdom that was seemingly bigger than me, right? And different than what I personally knew, and allow that wisdom to answer the question. And so it seemed rather natural compared to a lot of things, excuse me, and just that inspired infusion that flows through. And I think we all experience that at different times, where we'll say something or do something that's truly inspired, and we'll think, wow, where did that even come from? It just came through me. And we'll even notice it with children. Like, they'll say the darndest thing, and you're like, wait, where did that come from? And I think those are moments when we're just naturally channeling.
Awesome. So did you notice you started that, but did you start to notice, like, maybe something different that was happening in your body, maybe a different energy that you were aware of? Like, how did you start to, like, notice the physical aspects of, like, when you were channeling?
The thing is, love, when I first opened up, there were so many new sensations and experiences in my body and in my emotions, and even in my sensuality and sexuality. There was so much opening in me that I don't know that I could put my finger on, like, what specific, it's all channeling. I guess it's all channeling. So one thing I believe now is that channeling isn't just when somebody's talking.
Mm-hmm.
We're also channeling sometimes when we are moving or when we are transmitting, or different soul gift types have different ways of channeling. So my way of channeling is often speaking, in part because I'm a messenger soul gift type. And I think we're going to talk about soul gifts. Maybe, I can't remember if we're talking about that today or in the summit, but
Summit.
okay,
You guys got to come to the summit.
Come to the summit to learn what soul gift type you are, because that also speaks to what kind of channel you are. But I do think, honestly, that an intuitive awakening is an opening of the conduit for channeling. So for me, it was a very physical opening because it really happened during a birth. Like that opening of that creative channel of literally channeling a human being out of my body was part of the process of my energetic conduit opening to bring through even more energy. And the way that felt was definitely an expanded feeling, a surrendered feeling, a lot more emotional sensations that didn't seem good or bad, but rather seemed like information. And I've noticed from working now, helping other people open their channels for 25 years, that the sensory experience is different for different people, because each one of us is a different instrument or a different channel, a different conduit. And our sensations and our our mental stories and frameworks and religious frameworks, they're all so different that when that channel opens inside of us, or when it expands, for those of us that are already quite sensitive and even psychic, but it keeps expanding, there's different sensations that go along with that. And over the years, I have mapped a little bit of a journey, recognizing that most people go through certain phases as they open their channel or they open their intuitive state.
Well, that's cool, because everybody's different, right? So everybody have a different experience, right?
Totally.
But how is it for you? Like, who or what did you channel in the beginning, and how did that evolve for you?
Thanks for asking that, because now it has been 25 years. So I really think back. I'm not sure what it could be that Buffalo woman, who was always one of my main guides, might have come through me right up front to help me answer questions or bring through information. And when I was channeling her, the thing is, I didn't know anything about spiritual hoo-ha when I awakened. I didn't even believe in this stuff before it happened to me. And then I was like, oh crap, like all those spirit hoo-ha people were there. It holds water. There's something to this. And so I started to meet people. But I have to tell you, I was also really judgmental about it, because I always saw New Age or metaphysical people as ungrounded, woo-woo escapists. And so I was really judgmental, and a lot of the New Age material really turned me off. And so I was really drawn to teachers who seemed really grounded to me, like they were part of the world and part of spirit world. And so my ways of tracking these things were a little bit different. But I did meet my Apache mama, Maria Yesperu, who's a Karo Apache teacher and grew up on the White Mountains Reservation, and lives a traditionally spiritual lifestyle. And for her, all of this stuff is just normal. It's if you weren't hearing voices by the time you were 10, she says that's when they were worried about you, if you were not hearing voices. So So she and other teachers and and friends who were more spiritually, metaphysically educated than I was, were like, Mellissa, you're channeling there. That's what we call that, channeling. And they said, well, you could probably channel anything. And I'm like, well, what kind of stuff do people channel? And they're like, well, some people channel Metatron. Metatron is an archangel and likes to channel through humans. So I was like, okay. And so I opened to channeling Metatron, and that energy came through and felt so much different than Buffalo Woman. Buffalo Woman felt like, oh, this is just a bigger part of me, or a bigger part of us, or very familiar. And channeling Metatron was like, he was very analytical and sort of scientific and all this, sacred geometry and blah, blah, blah. And then after I channeled that guy, I felt kind of drained. I felt kind of dry. I felt kind of used. And I just thought, screw this. Like, that guy doesn't get to do that to me anymore. And so since then, I've really come to recognize that some energies are very aligned with me and my body and my senses and my what I value, and some energies, even if they're real important and fancy, they just don't feel good in my body. And so I don't choose to be a conduit for those. And I think that's an important aspect to talk about when we talk about channeling, because some people just think of channeling like possession, or like playing with a Ouija board where you're just talking to whatever wants to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, heck no. Channeling has to be conscious and chosen and specific. And this body instrument is mine, and I choose who enters it, what enters it, in the same way I would with a human being. I'm not just going to let anybody give me a French kiss, and I'm not going to French kiss Metatron if he's not my guy.
I love that you use Metatron. And actually, I'm pretty sure that like the Transformers, like the lead guy is also named Metatron.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was just like, when you said that, I was like, is she talking about Transformers, or is she talking about the angel? That's funny.
I mean, so yeah, where all of these are metaphors anyways, aren't they? Because none of these have bodies. We're not talking about beings that are human, right, or have bodies. So we just use whatever metaphors and access points we can with these little limited frontal cortexes we got. Yeah.
So you did touch on something that I teach channeling as well, and there's a lot of different types of channeling, and the type that you seem to be talking about is like full trance channeling. But can you talk a little bit about like maybe like the different types, and like what made you, I guess, choose, because you just said we choose it. So what made you choose this route where you're like, okay, I think they can come in through my body?
Well, I agree that there's lots of different types of channeling. And I think you and I are really aligned here, which is part of why we just sort of fell in love with each other when we met. We're going to talk more about the different soul gift types this weekend. And I use that as one rubric for identifying how someone probably is going to naturally feel like channeling. But I can say that, first of all, we're all conduits all the time. And sometimes I might be channeling at 5%. In other words, my guides or my higher self is infusing through me and working through me, working with me, collaborating with me, probably a lot of the time. And I notice when I'm working, if I'm like giving a reading, or I'm helping someone identify their best niche for their spiritual business, or whatever I'm doing, their guides are channeling through me. Like I'm really listening to their guides, and part of what's coming through me comes with the receiver's metaphors, not mine. And that's how I know that it's their guidance or their essence coming through. And sometimes it's my guides and their guides are flowing through my channel at some level, and as well as my lawyer brain. And so you might say, well, okay, if I'm giving a reading, maybe there's 10% is my guides and 15% is their guides, and the remaining 75% is my brain. And we're working together then to translate and synthesize a plan that draws from all these sources of wisdom and bring them forth. So that's a little view of like how I feel myself channeling when I'm working with someone. But I think all of us are channels 100% of the time. And maybe sometimes you're channeling at 5% saturation and your guides are coming through you at like 5%. And then other times, if you're doing a trance channeling, then your guides are coming through at 95%. And there's just 5% of you in there helping to translate. And there's a span back and forth, when I'm teaching a channeled class where it's not super trance channeling, but we're actually teaching, like I'm teaching right now a class, how to open your channel. And I'm really channeling Ma, who's the main energy that I channel, but probably at like 60%, 70%, because there's even more of my mind helping to relate it to other things that we've taught about, to put it in an order everyone can understand. So there's that. Now, as I mentioned, my soul gift is messenger. So the way that I channel results in words most of the time. But if I was a different type, it might result in a painting. What channels through me might end up being a painting, or what I channel through me might end up being an activity or a creation or a research paper. I don't know, because I'm not really those types, but I've had clients of all different soul gift types who channel in different ways. And the results of what they channel land in the world as different things. So we don't just have to think about, that form of channeling where the person's speaking light language or whatever. It's right. There's different ways. And I'm such a pragmatist. Like, I'm still part lawyer. I'm really committed to bringing, and I know you are too, like we've talked about this, that no matter how high the spirit vibe is, and no matter how wide we go in the etheric, we really value making real results for real people in this real world. Like, we're all embodied right now. And so the results should be happening here in integrity, in honesty, in love, in devotion to the highest good. So the proof is in the pudding. Spirituality, the proof is in the pudding. Or, if you're really spiritual, but you forget to feed your kids, that's a problem.
Yes. Please remember to feed your children.
You feed your kids. And even your dog and your kitty. Yeah. You have to feed them.
Yeah. Totally. It's a good point. And yourself. You actually
even yourself, man.
Yeah. Like, a lot of people forget yourself.
Yeah. Even you may know the mysteries of the universe, but you're here in this body right now. Right. What's your life like?
Yeah. That's great. And thank you for saying that, because that, like, I think too, and it's even something that I struggled with personally, was like, when I started channeling, I was like, we're not doing the full transkin channeling thing. Like, I was like, nope, not happening. Like, not this vessel. Not, I'm in a different place in my life now. But when I cared what other people thought, and then I was worried I was already crazy, the last thing I wanted to do was start
prove it.
Trans channeling. Yeah, prove it, exactly. Give them more. Give them more to hold a good space, whatever.
Yeah, I hear you. So, yeah.
So what? I'd love to dive into a little bit more of the deeper, kind of even some of the pragmatics of like channeling. So, like, how do you stay clear and open as a channel?
Well, you have to deal with your shit. Unfortunately, you actually have to deal with the stuff that makes you not an open channel. And that includes a lot of old training,
ego,
old restrictive rules. And it's ironic because a lot of really potent channels have really big egos. It's almost like we have to have a big ego to have so much gumption that we would stand with other people and say, hey, I'm bringing through the mysteries of the universe. Like, that takes a big ego. And so we make friends with the ego, and we balance the ego, and we utilize the ego, and we don't let the ego take over. But we are also grateful that we have big egos, because otherwise we don't have a TV show. We don't have, we don't do anything. We just go back into the temple and so I'm all for some ego. And we have to keep an eye on where our ego plays hide the ball, right? Yeah. And I know we both know, and probably you listening at some level know, that the blocks that we have from the past, especially from hurts and restrictive thoughts and agreements, from whether you want to look at that as, well, my family programmed me, or you want to look at that like, well, my soul chose these family people in order to program me so I could learn this stuff by doing it. Either way, at a certain point, you're like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done believing that BS. I now don't want to play that game anymore. I'd rather be clearer so that I can bring through truth and love energy at an even more pure form, and see what that's like to play with in the real world. So it's an ongoing process and practice. And, I mentioned my Apache mama, and she really taught me about the medicine wheel, and we have sort of a map, and I worked with her to create a more modern map of, in other words, a simpler one, because hers is like, for each moon, there's different guardians and animals, and like, it's a lunar calendar. And I was like, Shima, let's make one that's even more condensed and easily followed by people who follow a Gregorian calendar. And she's like, let's do it. And so we created, there's like this, like, flash you this wheel of wisdom with different archetypes for each month. And we use that as a map month by month to clear different aspects of the creative field according to different archetypes that we all embody. Like this month, it's the month of the queen, the sovereign archetype. And what gets in the way of that is usually old rules that some authority put on you. And so it's a great month or focus to take a look at that. Wow, what rules am I still thinking I need to follow? And we track that by following like guilt. What do I still feel guilty about? Oh, I still feel subtly guilty for having money. Oh, okay. Let's check that out. So whose rule am I breaking by having money? Oh, I feel like it's the church's rule. You can't have money and be spiritual. Okay, well, do I still align with that rule? Do I believe that you can't be spiritual and have money? No, that's a dumbass rule. That's not true. That doesn't even make sense. Okay, so let's do the work. So for me, it might be going into a drum journey, talking to my guides and be like, I'm done with this one, this whole rule that you can't be wealthy and spiritual. Let's be done. And I know you've got all kinds of ways, access consciousness. There's all kinds of cool things that you're doing that help people unravel these rules as well. And that's what we do month by month, archetype by archetype, address this stuff. And oh, Venus, we've been at it for so long, but there's always something new. There's always a new level to uncover. So it's good that we have each other. It's good that we have communities where we can laugh our way and feel compassion for ourselves and one another while we uncover the next level of clearing to open the channel. Yeah. And setting intention for the next up-leveling. And we map it on the wheel of wisdom, each level. And there's other maps, of course, that we use to map, that progress, because otherwise it's invisible and confusing.
Well, and I love what you said about ego too, because I was like, oh yeah, that's totally true. We all need a healthy ego. Absolutely. I think what I was talking about though was like where I used like to hide the ball. Like I was like,
I totally get that.
My ego of like trying to hide myself from the world.
Yeah. Because when she gets too big or too loud, That's what she does. She's like, oh, we're very important. We figured it all out. We don't have anything left to clear. I think we're ascended. Yeah, we're done. Ding. You know, the truth is the ascended folks that we do have on the planet don't even talk about it. They're just giggling most of the time.
Right? Yeah, they're looking at us going, oh, that's funny. Maybe they'll get it someday.
Yeah.
Cool. So what helps you know when you're channeling versus when it's your own thoughts?
Yeah, I get that question a lot as people are learning to channel. And I'm thinking back to when that was an issue for myself. Because I always like to teach from my own experience, because otherwise what the heck are we doing? And I remember that thoughts usually have an agenda. Thoughts are usually worried about what other people think. Thoughts are often land with the other person in a different energy. So when someone's really deeply channeling, and let me make this distinction too, because here's a really important distinction. A lot of people are call what they're doing channeling, but I wouldn't call it channeling. It's when the energy comes into you, say from spirit, and comes straight out your mouth, without you having really integrated it in your own body intelligence, it can sound kind of impressive, and the transmission can be really groovy, like, but it doesn't really land in an empowering way. So if you're listening to someone channeling and you're thinking, wow, they're really impressive, I could never do that. They're so otherworldly. Gosh, I feel small compared to what's this amazing thing. I would say that they might not be embodying it.
Right.
And I don't choose to relate with that. I don't choose to relate with teachers that make me feel smaller. I don't choose to work with healers that somehow after I leave, I feel kind of hungry for their presence. And that's not grounded. Sometimes it's actually like guru abusive hoo-ha.
Right.
Sometimes it's just it's a sign of an immature channel, of someone who's like, wow, I can do this. I can speak light language, and it comes through. And then afterwards they feel really kind of zonked because they never grounded it all the way through. They didn't like digest their food, you know, they're just kind of spewing the undigested. And this, even as I'm saying this, I feel a little cautious because some people don't know the difference, you know? And so for me, channeling is, I need to feel what's coming through all the way in my body. I need to bring it all the way down through me. Even if it's at 10%, even if what's coming through me is 10%, I need it to be saturated in me. And when it does that, it will often trigger my own, like, oh, I actually need to clear something in myself right now, even to let this wisdom come through. Sometimes wisdom comes in and it's a big surprise to my system. What? That's true? And I need to like pause and let my own system catch up with it before I continue sharing it. So, you know, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that particular difference. So it's subtle, but it's important. I find it's important for us as channels, I think, because the results, and remember, we're very results oriented, the result of a sort of a mind-based channeling like that, blah, 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 millions of la 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 la, when you're kind of, and you're like, do they really feel that source of that, or are they just, you know, is it just rolling out of them? Like I said, the result's quite different. The result feels to the listener like either scary or impressive, intimidating, strange, kind of creepy. Any of those results are I don't think really embodied channeling, and I don't think they're as useful. Let's just put it that way. The truth, what I want to say is those can be damaging. Those can be kind of controlling, agenda-based, or just half-baked, fear-inducing hoo-ha. That's not it. That's not what we want to be bringing through. That's not helpful in my humble opinion. So if you do find yourself, if you're someone who's awakening and you're like, whoa, I have this ability to channel, be discerning, first of all, about what you're willing to let in your body. Be choosy. You are not a slave to spirit, for crying out loud. They're here to help us. We are not here to serve whatever weird ass agenda some interdimensional has. Like, screw them. They want to come here to Earth. They can get their own dang body and go ahead and embody here. That's how I feel about it. And then, and so that's another aspect of that. How do I know if is it the mind or ego, or is it, choose who you're bringing through, and then really let it saturate your body. And as long as it feels good and is collaborative with your body, then you can partner with that energy to bring through what I think is grounded, embodied channeling that helps people. And if what you're bringing through, you're worried about, if you have any concern about the listener, that's your brain. That's your brain. I have to admit, I just did a channeling for some really important in the world people this weekend. I was brought out to do a channeling for some important in the world people. And my brain, my personality was like, oh, I hope this is a good channeling because I want them to be impressed with Mellissa, I want them to feel good that they brought me out here. I want the information to help. And meanwhile, like Ma, who channels through me, is like, yes, honey, that's very sweet. Now let's work. Let's get to work. And as soon as I open the channel fully, and I got to tell you, there was a person there who asked a very cutting question that I could feel, and she was a very important person in the world. And she asked this question that I could tell was challenging the channel. Now I was channeling at 95%. So it was mostly Ma there. And Ma, there was no ripple in her. She was just like, wonderful. Like, it kind of thrilled her that someone was like, oh yeah, you tell me, It's like, yes, dear, I will. And inside myself, I could hear her going, she doesn't really want me to tell her what she's asking for in front of all these people right now. And so I'm not going to reveal what she would not actually want me to reveal. Like, I could feel her kindness. But there was no rattle in her. But the 5% of me back here was like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Did I upset somebody? Is she mad? She's very important in the world. What is that? But I wasn't. Could that part of me come in if I really wanted to bust in and shut the whole thing down? I could, but that's not the game we're playing. So that's the difference. The energy, if it's an energy of the highest good, because you don't want to be channeling stuff that's not. You don't channel dead people. You don't want to channel like people who aren't of a higher vibration than you. What the heck? You can talk to them, but that's different.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe that was a long-winded response, but I hope
it was awesome. Okay. It was so good. But we do need to take a really quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll have some more questions for you. Thank you.
Om Times TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome forward, everyone. So Mellissa, really cool. Right before the break, you were talking about like the experience of channeling and like what you think is channeling and not channeling. And we actually have a comment a question in the comments. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting. I've never had somebody ask this before. So channeling the spirit of a living person, is that harder?
Channeling the spirit of a living person?
Mm-hmm.
I would never do that.
Cool. So
that would be a really strong breach of informed consent. So our intention's really powerful. Our choices are really powerful. And spirit is very respectful of our choice, of our power of choice. So we humans, we have the power of choice. That's why we invoke our guides. We really ask them to come and help us. And then they have even more access to us. Our guides and the angels and spirits, they're not supposed to just come and fiddle with us. Right. And likewise, we're not supposed to fiddle with other people. Other people are their own sovereign beings. They have their own intentions. They have their own desires. And so I get the question a lot from people, how do I wake up my father or something? Like, how do I wake up someone in my life that I feel isn't awake enough? And I'm like, well, you don't. You absolutely do not. You can invite him. You can try to educate. You could suggest, inviting works best. But even if you did have enough spiritual power to juju him awake, that would be such a profound breach of ethics because it would be against his consent. And I've learned that, different souls have different intentions, different life experiences. And some of the souls on this planet, people in your life, they didn't come here to have the experience of waking up. They came here to have the experience of being a severe abusive alcoholic. And that's their path. That's what that's what they chose to do. That's what their guides are helping them do. And it would take their choice, very strong choice, to turn that soul contract around in the middle of a lifetime, which can be done, but it would be up to them, not up to me. So we don't fiddle with other people. That's sorcery. And that causes a lot of like a backlash of energy, what some people would call karma. So no, we don't even pretend to do that. And you might have meant like, what about channeling a historical figure? Because a lot of people either claim to do that or, do that at some level. And I don't do that either. So, how many Mary Magdalene channels are there? Are they channeling the lady that stood on the steps of the Roman temple preaching the good news and got arrested and thrown in jail in France? Are they actually channeling that woman, the person who lived, birthed, and died? No, they are not. They are not. Sorry. They're probably channeling a greater energy that has become associated with that woman.
Gotcha.
So we channel archetypes and energies. We can channel, we understand different energies differently. And it doesn't mean it's not real if they're not channeling the actual lady. Maybe they're channeling her oversoul. Maybe they're channeling something that feels like what she's come to represent to us. That's good stuff. I love me some Magdalene. But if we try and claim that we're actually channeling Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King Jr. or something, I mean, come on. That's not how that works.
Right. This is kind of an off topic, but I'm dying to hear what you have to say about this. Again, with you, I feel like we could talk for hours about everything. But I've met multiple people in my lifetime that believe that they are Jesus reincarnated. What do you share about that?
Well, because they're not. Reincarnation is a funny thing, right? And we humans, I mean, our guides, you got to give them credit. They will tell us and support whatever story we need to believe in order to make our next evolutionary move. If I need to believe for a while that I am Jesus reincarnated so that I will step onto the path of service I came here to be on in this lifetime, whatever. You're God. Sure, honey, you're Jesus. Let's be Jesus until you figure out that the unconditional love that you call Jesus didn't just belong to the Nazarene. It was there before the Nazarene. It'll be there after the Nazarene. The Nazarene was this ascended soul. Yes, absolutely. But you don't got to be Jesus to be unconditional love. But if I believe that's the only way I can be unconditional love is that I'm the reincarnated Jesus, your guides will be like, all right, sure, let's play that game. I guess we're all Jesus in some sense, so rock and roll. But it can become such a big distraction. And I don't do past life regression with people much anymore because
me neither.
People get disappointed when they find out that they weren't Joan of Arc. It's like, you don't have to be Joan of Arc to be an important soul. Give me a freaking break. Holy moly. We work more with like the archetypes that we've played through different lifetimes. So many of us have played a certain role through lifetimes in life. Maybe it's the courtesan, and you've been courtesan this way, courtesan that way. You've been the pimp, you've been the whore, you've been the court lady, you've been the queen who was the young queen just for babies, and you've been all the different faces of the courtesan and the ones who use the courtesan lifetime after lifetime after lifetime in order to really experience that energy. Yay, what a fun research project that your soul did there.
Right.
But does that mean that you had to have been a famous courtesan? No, but when people do past life regression, their mind latches on to whatever being, personality represents that. So they'll go, oh, I was Marie Antoinette. Okay, whatever. Actually, you were a bunch of different sorts of Marie Antoinettes that nobody ever knew about. But if you want to call it Marie Antoinette, have fun.
Cool. I love that. That's great. So how do you recommend people choose who or what to channel? Like what energy?
What a great question.
Yeah.
What a great question. When I'm working with people, I really, we start by learning the soul's gift, and then we learn their purpose, their life purpose, their contract, or their right fit role in this lifetime, who they're really here for, if they're here for a purpose for a particular group of people so it's kind of a progression. But then when we get a good idea of what they're really here for and how they've earned wisdom through these sorts of, like soul contracts, soul research projects, that earns you wisdom in a certain area through experience, like some stuff. And when you kind of triangulate all those things, the soul's gift and all the bits and pieces together, you start to understand the energy that you're here to transmit. Well, then I think the energy, you're so in touch then when you start to be willing to see what the big path is. It literally calls in the big part of you, or the spirit team or the council that are your natural collaborators on your unique path. And that is naturally what wants to channel through you. It's what's already channeling through you. That doesn't mean that you can't say, well, now I want to channel like I want to channel this spirit of unconditional love. I want to channel this library over here. Okay, you can, but probably what is going to feel the most aligned and potent and useful is to open yourself to channeling the energies and the support and the source that is uniquely you. And it's aligned for the work you're here to do in this world right now. It's not some escape thing like, oh, I don't want to think about this crazy world anymore. Let's just go channel. Like that's a different thing. You can do it, but it probably won't feel as fulfilling as when you open to bring through what only you uniquely can.
Yeah, and the discovery of that, again, we'll invite you, we'll post the link. Please come to the summit this weekend, and we'll talk a little more about the soul gifts and kind of how to discover that. I'm really excited to share that with you all. It was an eye-opener for me when I did my own. I was like, oh, wow, that makes so much sense.
I know, because this weekend we'll talk about the various soul gifts, but a lot of people, they take the soul gift quiz and they're like, oh crap, I thought I was the other one. You realize, oh, I was always trained to be the other one. The quiz is right. How can this dumb little quiz be so right? And that's what I love about the soul gift quiz, is it nails you and it opens up a conversation that for some people it's just validation, like, oh, I knew it, but for many people it's like, oh, right. Maybe I've been focusing in a little bit the wrong space.
It literally put a pause on everything I was doing.
Oh, wow.
You have to sit and just be. I'm just like, whoa, wait.
The good news is it's the path of ease.
Right.
Things get so much easier when you work with your gifts and not against them. Things get so much easier.
So yes, please come. That's going to be really fun with Mellissa. We have 5 other amazing speakers that are coming to the summit as well. The summit is live both Friday and Saturday. So I don't know what it is about live. I just like talking to people live. So
cool. Let's do it.
Yep. Cool. So are there, let's see, I think I had, what role does trust play in channeling?
Trust. I think the first trust is actually trusting yourself to be who you are, to be something that you are, not something that you were trained to be. I mean, that's what the soul gift thing is all about. And that can be a big one, to really trust yourself. Sometimes we think it's safer to play a role that we've always been given than to trust ourselves and our true path, our true gifts, our true focus, So that's the first one. And then trusting the process of opening intuitively can be tricky in a world where, look, I went to Stanford, man. I was a lawyer. It was hard for me at first to trust when I'm seeing dead people and spirit guides and people's energy layers. And what I could trust was God. I could really trust my own intrinsic knowing of what unconditional love feels like, and trusting that to help me sort and make sense of all this other information was really how I moved through that transition. Trusting mentors that were grounded and real and teaching from their own experience, being willing to trust other women who had been where I was and had moved beyond and into doing good work in the world. Oh, that was scary and important. And then learning to trust the overall path of myself as a channel, trusting that I would be shown how the systems and the mentors that could help me make money doing it, so that I could trust, my responsible caretaking self, because I'm a mom and I'm committed to making sure my kids have what they need. Money trust, future trust, spirit trust, and most of all, self-trust. Yeah, it is an experience of trust. Because even though the world is opening up to this more and more, I think there's still a cultural tendency to go, this isn't the real world, blah, blah, blah. And yet I work with some really high leaders who, are hundreds of millionaires and like they have hundreds of millions of dollars and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And secretly, like in their private life, this is the stuff they're using to navigate their decisions. At the same time as everybody's like, well, that's not real. Successful people don't do that. Actually, all the successful people are doing it. They're just not talking about it.
That's so great. I love that. Yep. That's just, it's just an testament to like how much more open the world is, even if they're not talking about it.
Yes.
So that's great. Well, what is maybe one or two things that you think that you'd really like people to leave with about channeling for themselves?
Yeah. First of all, you're already channeling in your best moments when you have great ideas that come out of nowhere and flow through you. That's channeling. It's natural. It's supernatural and it's supernatural. Like it's both. And it's not something to be intimidated by or afraid of. I think it's just something to bring into our awareness and to welcome, because why not? The more that you are open to the best stuff flowing through you, the more good stuff is going to flow through you. And it can happen in your own unique way. It doesn't have to look like somebody else. It doesn't even have to be verbal. It doesn't have to happen like someone else. And that's why, it'll happen according to your soul's gift and your unique wisdom and your own preferences.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that takes you over. It's not possession. It's not. It's more like optimum flow state. That's what my creative tech Silicon Valley clients call it as well. You mean flow state? I'm like, yeah. And my theater people call it improv, and and my athletes call it being in the zone. But it's all flippin' channeling. It's all channeling. You're already doing it. It's natural to you. Do it in your own way.
That's great. And trust yourself. For sure.
Trust.
Do you think that maybe there's a message that from the universe that, how do I want to say that? A message for everyone from the universe?
I can just feel Ma saying, these are times of extraordinary change. These are times of extraordinary take apart and awakening. And I'm seeing an egg cracking and being smashed in order for the chick to come out. And I'm seeing the baby chick maybe getting roughed up a little bit in the process and feeling scared and vulnerable and naked as its new feathers are growing in, as its eyes are able to open. And the message is just like, that's where we're at right now. And so if you're feeling like your whole protective egg is getting smashed and maybe you're getting a little cut up trying to get through it, know that your eyes will be open soon and the protective feathers will grow in. And at a certain point, we're going to fly. And that world will look completely different when you have the ability to fly.
That's beautiful. I've been using the metaphor of the butterfly, the caterpillar to the butterfly, right? And how when you fly, it will be completely different than crawling on the ground as a caterpillar, right? But also like you won't have the same level of communication even, right? Because a caterpillar talking to a caterpillar is different than a butterfly talking to a butterfly. So I'm excited for the changes, although they can be uncomfortable. So hang in there for those of you out there who might be struggling or going through your own sort of growth and Thank you, everybody who joined us, all the comments, and it was really nice to see everybody popping in and saying hello. I adore you all. I'm also grateful for you. If you can make it, if you can't make it, sign up anyway. You'll get the recordings. Mellissa has a special gift for everyone coming on the summit. So, definitely take that link and sign up and come join us for any and all of it. I'd love to see you. And thank you, Mellissa. This has been really wonderful and enlightening. And I'm so grateful for you and your spirit in the world. Thanks for being you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.